Well, a little bit late, but today is the 5th of August, and we have been working pretty hard over here. Some interesting developments, some definitely to our benefit. And and a little touch and go there for a bit over the last couple of days since we last spoke. Okay, developments, things we've discovered we were aware of the being, but we weren't aware of exactly how this whole construct worked behind this being. You probably remember a little bit of talk I had with you about a being called the Destroyer. Turns out there is a whole species of destroyers out there, or was. Now we're just stuck with the main, or was stuck with the main being. The main being, I guess you would say, was the original lost soul. This is what Source described this being as. It wasn't always dark. It was probably the second being that came into creation, even before Lucifer, turns out. And he was the first, by lost soul, it was the first being to ever be cut off completely from Source. From him, there was quite a bit of revenge, let's say. He also was a being that created a lot of false universes, or universes of simulated universes, I guess you would say, everywhere. So he was the original creator of a lot of the simulations. So getting to the root of problems, as it relates to simulations was important. And you could say he was pretty dark. Definitely had a good hand in creating the original sin, so to speak. Also had a big hand in creating a lot of the dark beings that we have come to know as some of them AI generated. And, leave it up to the secret space program to lead us right to him over the last few days. So it's something we've been fighting, since last week. I would say probably Tuesday, Wednesday. Turns out there was a system here on Earth that was left over. It was often used between Marduk and this being to communicate. And this being, turns out, gave the deep state, the SSP, a lot of access to this, with a lot of promises. You see, this being hadn't been here in over 3 million Earth years, and he would like to come back. In exchange for their help and having him come back, he promised them all kinds of things: wealth and control of the financial system and control of Earth, and, they would become the new Galactic Council, too. So, a lot of promises being made by this being. As we located him based on their communications, we began to tear down the entire network. That was important. We had severed the network enough whereas he was not able to communicate with them by, Thursday, Friday of last week. I would say Friday. And when they lost contact with this being, they tried to make some other phone calls. And we'll talk about that here in just a few, because there's a long story with that, which actually ended up as a positive for us. So this being, they have made several attempts using whatever access he gave them of Marduk's, of days gone by, to try and get this being here in every way possible. You could call this being the Antichrist. You could call it the creator of Satan, the creator of Lucifer, you name it, the root of all evil. And they thought it was a good idea to bring him here. They did try. They've been sending lots of frequencies to try to break open any kind of portal unsuccessfully over the last few days, including, what happened last Wednesday to me. That wasn't going to happen. When they couldn't get me to consent to allowing this being to come into my person, they tried a number of their chosen people. They lined them up one by one and thought it was a good idea to try to see if any of them qualified. Of course, they picked the best and the ones that they thought could hold such a large energy. And a few of them didn't make it, really. Looks like a few of them are no longer with us due to this issue. And this sparked panic with another group. I know I've mentioned these people before, and it's been quite a while, but I called them at the time, and I still call them, the Watchers. And the beings we know as the Watchers, or humans, they are humans. They are human descendants of other Watchers over and over and over again. You could say they were tied to Enoch and Noah and some others we have known throughout our history, and many others we don't know. The Watchers are not inherently evil. However, they are a little bit misled. And they were told that if we got to a point where the end of time would happen, then as a direct result, they would wipe out the human species. So they have worked with the deep state and a number of those people for a long time because they felt that it was necessary to preserve humans on this planet. They also felt, most recently in the last 48 hours, that we were entering what they called the times of Enoch. And by the times of Enoch, it was about the story, I guess you can probably find some information about this, but with Enoch, allegedly, he was taken to a better city, a better place, in exchange for his service, so to speak, to the angels, maybe? I don't know the story as it's told on the internet, but these people thought it was the end of time. I mean, that we were all going to die, this other being was going to come back, probably because the deep state convinced them of such, and that they needed them to help the deep state in order to allow this being to come here in order to save humanity. That was interesting. Like, I don't think so. This is not happening in any way, shape, or form. And the amount of stories, that are out there, and the amount of lies, I swear the whole world must run on bull feces at this point. And I'm sure of it. But they pretty much lie to everybody, and so, this little group here would be no exception. Because they are the Watchers, and they do work with the deep state, oftentimes, we could find these people within most of the religions, at the higher levels, with like the Vatican and the Mormons and the Russian Orthodox Church. We could find them in most of these places. We can also find them, in some of those higher level meetings within the deep state. They're always a part of everything, but yet a part of nothing at the same time. However, some of their views are pretty skewed. Instead of trying to solve the problem, they just accept that this is going to happen, and if they had their way, they would be building an ark, like Noah, in order to save the human species and animals. 2 by 2 into some boat because Earth is about to get wiped out and we need to restart the human species, I guess. I don't know what they were. It's what it appeared they were trying to plan on doing, because they thought this was going to be over pretty soon as the deep state got this guy here. They also felt like this being, we call the destroyer, was going to deliver the wrath of God any day now. Probably within the next couple of weeks, they thought. It was a definite certainty, because they didn't do their job. And not just wrath on them, they would be saved for trying their best to save humanity, so to speak, but deliver the wrath of God here on the planet, probably apocalypse number 94, as we've almost had many times. But no luck. So the being is disintegrating unto himself, and all of the power and control that he had is also disintegrating. And that kind of brings us back to the SSP and their problems this week. And I would say, their problems are our blessings in a lot of ways. So they've been working, they've made a lot of promises around the world, financially and otherwise. And we know that. We know that they've also said, we control governments, we control the intelligence, we control the militaries. Because Marduk had a lot of those management contracts, and they felt by the limited access they were permitted to have that they would earn those seats. So they were really going for all of the seats that Marduk previously held this week. They felt that this could be a possibility due to Lionsgate and other events, and of course, their new partnership with the root of all evil. Why not? They also felt that they would receive a management contract to be the new Galactic Council. So not only were they planning on taking control of Earth in the next several days, they also planned on taking over the entire Milky Way galaxy and our solar system. And of course, they would become the commandant for the Galactic Federation, like Marduk was. This being sure wrapped up a nice little package for these humans. And you know what? I don't know if they know who this being was, and nor do I think they really cared. It seems to me that they will do anything to be in control. They make deals with anything, any being, anywhere. And what's even funnier to me is they just believe everybody. Well, these people wouldn't lie to us. This guy lies to everybody. He taught Marduk how to lie. They're all liars. What they didn't realize, and perhaps this other being didn't either, because it seems to me there was a lot of people kind of kept in the dark by Marduk, very compartmentalized, just like he did with the deep state, really. They were given partial information only as it was necessary in order to do what he wanted, and never a bit more information, and definitely not the whole story. If anything, they've learned more from us than they have ever had in their entire existence. So let's go back to global management, galactic management, and galactic federation control and commandant, I guess you would say, positions. There were similar positions for global money management, lesser positions, of course, global media management, and global governance management, and onward down the line, based on Marduk's position. Now, back in 2007, early 2008, when the meeting started, as we've talked about before, I want to remind you that there was a falling out, between Marduk and the Universal Council, or Intergalactic Council, as they're also called. And he had promised for many years to rectify his actions. He was also told that, every year when the meetings would happen, he was also told that if he didn't rectify his actions, there would be consequences. And he felt that he had things wrapped up pretty tight so that there would never be consequences to his actions. He always had a dead man switches. He always had all kinds of different things that he would do. But this one he wasn't expected when he got cut off from the Alpha system. He was also put on a tentative watch to be the ambassador for this, council, as he was on behalf of this galaxy and Earth and the Galactic Federation and so on and so forth. He was put on a very serious watch, period. And by 2007, 2008, they cut him off. At least from that, thinking that might get him to start acting on behalf of balance, meaning both the dark and the light, but to no avail. Therefore, it is not a surprise that by the time Marduk left us, or in 2016, that, a lot of his control systems also disappeared, at least as it relates to the light side of the omniverse. And this began the downfall of a lot of things, bit by bit, piece by piece, and a lot of hard work on our part and, on the work of others as well. By 2016 is when I got my appointment as an ambassador to the Galactic Council, and onward and upward we go, or I drew the short straw, not sure which one. So this began a steamroll of events, and one of those events actually occurred in the last 24 hours. So Marduk, before his departure as Commandant of the Galactic Federation, had told a certain group that they were to protect a certain quadrant of the galaxy, being our galaxy, and that they were not to come back for about a decade in Earth's time. So, much to their surprise, they did try reaching out on the Commandant line a number of times over the years and was unable to reach Marduk anymore, obviously, until recently when they tried, or got a message, I should say. It was an incoming message, and it was through the Marduk line. It came, though, from the Secret Space Program folk who recently acquired said line from this dark being. And basically, it was a call for help. They needed help getting this being here. They were cut off from communications, by the end of last week, and they needed them to come back immediately to help. And of course, without further ado, they arrived last night. Which, of course, left me with a whole lot of work trying to figure out who these people are, where they came from, why are they talking to them. Allegedly, the councils were saying they were not our enemy. It certainly felt like it last night, and, on we went through the entire night. The deep state basically said I was the enemy. I was not allowing this to occur. This being wants this to occur. They promised them, great wealth, big positions, just like they promise all the humans, with no ability whatsoever to give any of these positions to anybody at this moment, of course, and never will, actually, if we have anything to say about it. So, because beings like this, these were non-human members of the Galactic Federation, because these beings have a little bit of skill, just like the Secret Space Program does, they're, let's just say, well armed with the ability to talk telepathically. They are well armed with their own personal lie detectors. They are well armed with a lot of special gifts and tools to become part of the Galactic Federation. So for many, many years, they did serve Marduk, and, well, we found out a lot more information about them. So Argatha, and this information came from them in the council and also the Council of Five, as we were trying to figure out what do we do. I mean, we were about to attack these people, non-people, people, overnight, because it appeared that they were planning on trying to help these people out. And we weren't going to have that now, were we? Not in any way, shape, or form. You know, they did. Some of the lower end folks didn't realize they came until this morning, and it's being passed. The information that I'm about to tell you is being passed down the ranks. It hasn't hit government level or Pentagon level, but it's definitely hit probably global headquarters and some of the higher end Black Sun people and whatever's left of it, probably table level and that kind of thing. So, in having talks with them and the council for the last 24 hours, and also these other people, we're basically telling them they're full of it. You know, and we all told them the whole story about what happened with Marduk and what happened with the ambassadorship, and then, you know, who I am, and then I'm not what the deep state says I was. I know that was not a shocker for them. Apparently, they had been kind of doubting what they were saying anyway, because they were acting very erratically and trying to play let's make a deal. And that's not something Marduk would have ever done with people like this. Apparently, the secret space program, or at least the ones that used to travel about as part of the Galactic Federation, felt that these were more comrades. You know, we'll take you with us. We're on the way to complete and total success and control, and we're going to take over, you know, Marduk's positions. And look, he already gave us some access to the systems, you know, in good faith, so we could help bring this dark being here. And we haven't been able to reach him in a couple of days, but he'll call us. He'll call us. We know it. Yeah, right. So, in our talks, we talked a lot about Argatha. Now, my understanding was, and as far as I was aware, our term for Argatha, and remember, you know, sometimes I see things as without a name. You know, it's the same way with this alpha system when I started using it. I understood how it worked. I didn't know, like, the official name for this or for that. In this particular case, it's kind of the same. You know, I always looked at Argatha as the beings that lived on this planet that lived in another density or dimension. And that in part is true. I just didn't understand how it was all constructed. So, after the wars, and we've had many, but after some of the wars, longer than 250,000 years ago, I believe it probably went back for quite a long time. I would say millions of years, Argatha has been around. And Argatha is a term that you could say Middle Earth, you know, that's what they called it. However, that's not the whole story. Agatha was a density that was, you could say, made up of a third in densities. So in other words, if densities have densities of existence have 9 planes, you could say that those planes and the planes in between planes and so on and so forth were divided between the dark or false dark and false light and false neutral. And these planes, worlds or universes, so to speak, the universes of Agartha, were where most of the Galactic Federation hung out. You could call these worlds, which were formed after a war broke out, in the densities that were created, let's call them artificial densities. And a few reports ago, I talked about densities 10, 11, 12, and into infamy. And all of those densities were birthed out of this Agartha. Unfortunately, even those beings that created false universes were also at war to some degree. And of course, as any beings that are dark or false light, they all want power and control. Even if it was over artificial universes and simulations, but power and control is what they wanted. So there was a war that did break out in the, let's just call them, I hate to say upper densities and lower densities, lower than low and upper than higher than high. But there was a war at one point, and these beings of these densities, all artificially created, of course, came to somewhat of a peace agreement and formed Agartha. And you could say it was Agartha served as a number of different things. Number one, it served as almost like a border crossing from the dark side of the omniverse and artificial universes as well, and simulations, to the light side. You could say that the Galactic Federation, both human and non-human, served as border guards. They also had another job, which was to sell space and time. You see, the darker side of universes and artificial simulations and universes were nothing but space and time. You know, those were the two primary elements, so to speak, that existed. Now, in order to pass into the light side of universes, be them artificial or in reality, you must have space and time. So these guys here were also in charge of peddling space and time to those who wish to cross from the dark side over here, at least all the way up to what you call the incursion point, which was just past the 5th density. And travel about they did for a long, long time until a few years ago when we started shutting it all down. Probably started in about 2019 and continued on until not that long ago. And then now it's been simulations and false universes and, you know, for the last few weeks. So still a work in progress. Hopefully we'll be done soon. But it's definitely a lot of work. It's not like, oh, snap your fingers and make it go away. I wish it was that easy. But I think that we are definitely nearing the end, and hopefully we won't run into any more beings. But so the Galactic Federation was both dark and both light, as you know, and there were even some what you would say were neutral. And they were there specifically to ensure that there was no violation of the covenants of ownership and the Galactic Council as set forth by Marduk as Commandant. So Marduk often operated in the gray, and a lot of implied consent, a lot of dictatorship agreements and covenants, and he pretty much gave himself full control and final say. Much like the Galactic Federation, there was a lot of separation and a lot of being kept in the dark, and he didn't really tell everyone the whole story. Just like the SSP clearly didn't have the whole story, so their thought process of being appointed, masters of the universe in the next few days was flawed, because a being of this type could never give both sides. Even over false light and false dark simulations and universes, he could never give them both. What he wanted, this being did not tell the SSP, is he wanted to break into reality. That's basically what he wanted. And he wanted to use them to do it. Once that happened, there would be no longer any need for him. And he would take all roles, all realms, including the reality. But these people at the secret space program, are stupid. They also told their returning Galactic Federation comrades that I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I didn't know what was going on, and this is what they're doing, and they know everything. And, clearly, their comrades did not believe them in any way, shape, or form. So a conversation with myself, the council, and the Council of Five was very welcome at that point. They got a lot of truth with a lot of proof, and that led them to wonder what to do with their comrades. You see, by this point, by the time we finally got a hold of them, they were already deeply interrogating their comrades because they knew that they were being lied to. They now wanted to know what the heck to do with them. So, with a better understanding of the council's role, with a better understanding of the Council of Five role, because these were beings they were never permitted to speak to in the past, Marduk would handle all that for them. You just do your job, he would say, kind of like rank and file in a military order. They now have some, not all, of a better understanding of what's happening. Now, over the course of the next 24, 48 hours, they're going to get a really good understanding of what really happened, who they are, what they did, what their job was, what it really was, and how Marduk lied to them. So there is when you're on the side of Source, you're on the side of truth, and there is nothing we have to hide on our side. I probably will participate, and at least as it relates to events here as well, if they have any questions. But as far as the deep state, the ones that reached out to them anyway, at least the part that is aware and a member of the ACIO militaries, they're in kind of an uncomfortable position right now at the moment and sort of in a holding pattern. They are, let's just say, not well liked by their comrades anymore. And that decision as to what to do with those folks anyway will be made between the two councils. Of course, if it was up to me, no one would, they'd be gone to the far reaches of an abyss somewhere, never to return. But, I'm kind of not as tolerable of these people anymore, and I'm sure you're not either. So getting the council involved, I think, is a good idea at this point. So we'll see. I do not think their mind can be changed. I do not think they can be swayed. I have no doubt in my mind that we have more beings of non-human origin approaching Earth in the next 24, 48 hours, maybe even a little longer, and I think everybody's going to go to school for a little while. I'm sure that communication line is still open between the beings that showed up here and the others. However, doesn't look like at this moment And I'm going to say at this moment, because you just never know what can happen, it doesn't look like at this moment that they are opposed to helping us versus help their comrades here on Earth. So we could have an interesting few days depending on the decision that all these folks make. But now that Argatha is going away, and those planes of existence are going away, and the false universes are going away, and all the Argathas that were mirrored everywhere are going away, they're all going to end up coming back here. That I know. Hopefully, they'll make good choices. If they make poor choices, they will not be here either. So we're giving them an opportunity to gain an understanding and some wisdom, and we'll see what the kind of decisions they make. They are very short on time. This is not going to be a long process, said the Council and the Council of Five. They've got a short window to figure out if they want to work directly with the Intergalactic Council, which is the only one that is left, meaning in the past there was also a dark intergalactic council. And I know they know that council doesn't exist anymore. However, if they would like to work with that group and the enforcer, of course, on watch, we'll see. I don't think the dumb humans here will ever stop, and they'll even go against their comrades. That's my personal opinion. Having dealt with these people now for several years, I don't see them changing their mind in any way, shape, or form. So we'll see what everybody else thinks after they get an education in the next couple of days. Hopefully, things will turn out without a war between us and them. That would be good. Not to say that we aren't prepared to do that should it become necessary, but hopefully we'll come to some general understanding of what's happening here, and with some insight and information from the council directly about their past and how they've been misled and on their future. So hopefully there'll be some good decisions and some good changes here on Earth very soon. We are still in the Lionsgate period. I think we're going to see what happens in the next few days, because the deep state, both false dark and false light, apparently think there's going to be some miraculous portals opening over the next little over 2 weeks. And I don't see it happening. I don't think it's going to happen at all, as a matter of fact, as far as these folks here. We'll definitely keep you updated as to the progress. They could be quite helpful, in the long run. But it's only fair that they get all of the information before they make a decision on which way they are going to go. As for the humans, I think they're pretty much messed about with their own comrades there for a while. And I don't really think they like them very much. At least not the ACIO folks, which is a real big positive for us. On that note, that is about what's happened over the last several days. Of course, there's been a lot of cleanup and a lot of work to get past these universes and this being and covenants after covenants after covenants that affect this planet and the entire galaxy and the entire omniverse in some cases. But I won't bore you with all the intricate details. I'm sure they'll be in the real history at some point in time when we get that far, with probably a mini-series at this point. 2-hour movie's not going to cut it. On that note, this has been the GIA report for the 5th of August, and I look forward to updating you on, I guess it'd probably be about Friday at this point.